Welcome back to the Midnight Who Show, and today we are going to be reviewing the second episode of Doctor Who Series 11, The Ghost Monument. So following on from last week, the Doctor and her new companions, Ryan, Yaz, and Graham, are kind of in a predicament. And of course they get rescued by two different kind of ship pilots in space, and those two are kind of competing in a kind of a race, and they get basically, one crash lands onto a planet, one does not, and we find out that they are basically have to navigate this kind of very desolate, kind of very killer environment planet to survive, to get to the Ghost Monument, which actually turns out to be the Doctor's TARDIS. Yes, we're getting closer to finding out what the new Doctor's TARDIS is, and that got me very excited. So of course now we meet this really reminding me of like basically two people. They both have to race, and one of them's gonna basically die, whoever does not get there first. But of course, they have the Doctor and her friends who are kind of there to now basically be on their journey, because the Doctor knows that the other side of that is her TARDIS. Now, this story, of course, I think was pretty okay. I don't think it's probably going to be one of my favorites of all time, but I think, Chris Chibnall did a pretty good job on developing these side characters. They didn't really feel like ignored. They actually got some development, and actually you kind of remember them. And I really like that. Sometimes with a lot of shows, not just Doctor Who, the side characters or the people of the week just are kind of pushed to the side and they don't really get much development. Here, you can see what type of people these people are. You got definitely one who's kind of definitely a bit more, I'm going to call him kind of more mean-spirited. And the one person's kind of a lot more enthusiastic and more about the exploration. And basically the other one just wants to get to the other side, get out of here. I could really tell that. But honestly, now the biggest planet, this planet is very mysterious. There's not many other characters besides the person who tells them, what's going on, what's the rules in this kind of tent in the oasis. And it's very kind of a mysterious kind of story, because you're also kind of noticing there's stuff around the planet. Where are all the people? So it's definitely, you got a lot of questions that need to be answered in this. And it did a very good job answering them. Now, of course, I say, the villain of the story, or kind of the villain, there wasn't really much of a villainous kind of turn. We had robots, which were kind of more sniper robots, who basically attacked once the kind of wire was tricked, but really there wasn't that many villains for the story. Of course, we do learn a bit more about the Stenza, which were where the Tim Shaw came from last week, and that was really cool. A little bit more development onto that race. You also get to see how cruel and merciless they are, which I think was much needed, because of course my biggest thing from last week was interesting villain, but not very much development on who these people are, and this episode gave that, and man, they are very interesting race. I wonder if we'll see them again in Doctor Who. But of course the main kind of creatures that the Doctor encounters are these sentient remnants of the people who were there, I think is what it was. I don't really remember. So basically the main thing we get is these kind of rag-like creatures that can basically suffocate you and kill you, and are very telepathic and kind of read the minds, which is kind of interesting what they read from the Doctor. The Timeless Child. I'm very curious where that's going to go. Now, honestly though, these remnants were very, dealt with very quickly. They're gone very quickly, but they were built up. If you notice throughout the episode, there was these kind of creatures lying in the thing, little sand areas, and of course, the main guy who told them about this planet said that do not travel at night. We learned why. It was the remnants. They were gonna get you. But yeah, and overall, the story was pretty okay. The best thing about this episode for me was seeing the new TARDIS. I was just really enjoying it, and once we finally get it, it feels a lot more smaller than a lot of the previous TARDIS. I would say that. It felt, I think, it was like a little cave, but you got the console, which was really cool. It was really designed well, but it also had a very organic sense to it, which I really enjoyed. It also has a biscuit dispenser, which is kind of interesting. Hey, when the Doctor gets hungry, now the TARDIS is ready for it. So yeah. That was kind of interesting. Also, the new title sequences, I'm not sure how I feel about them quite yet, but I do like them. I like the new arrangement of the Doctor Who theme, so that was really nice. And those two things really made this episode. Just to hear the new theme song for once, and also see the brand new TARDIS. And I like the line that came. I like how it was just kind of had to come back into it, and how excited the Doctor was to show her new friends the TARDIS. So that was awesome. But yeah, overall, so there are a lot of things about this episode I didn't like, but let's think about the things I did not like. And pretty much the only thing I can say is the pacing. The pacing was a bit kind of off for me. I don't know that was necessarily the worst thing about it, but it felt like, kind of was slow at parts, and then kind of picked up, and then it kind of fast at the end. The only other thing was, of course, there really was no villains, but I think that was okay, because you, of course, have these kind of mysterious creatures, and it did develop the Stenza from last week, which I think was good. And to me, I think that was about it. The only thing I could say is, I found it kind of interesting how last week, of course, with the Doctor, she didn't have her Sonic, she built it, and then she had it from that point. In this episode, I felt she definitely used it a lot more, so you get to see a lot more of this new Sonic. But yeah, overall, the Ghost Monument, a pretty decent Doctor Who story, and I would give it a 7.5 out of 10. So what was your guys' thoughts on the Ghost Monument? Did you like it? Did you just thought it was just okay? And tell me your guys' thoughts on this new Doctor. How do you think of her so far? And what are your thoughts on the new companions? And the TARDIS? And the new theme song? And all that awesome stuff that got introduced in this episode. So, I'll see you guys in the next video. Okay guys, I'll see you guys next time. Bye everyone.